Well, hello again. A bit later today on a Sunday. Outside today it's a little bit windy, but I don't think it's going to rain, so we'll see how it goes. I hope the wind doesn't affect the microphone too much. But this may stop me disappearing into silhouette. Good for me, bad for you, I suspect. Okay, so what do we have? It's 2 or 3 minutes to 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, the 17th of August, 2025. So what do we have in the wonderful world of ETs coming here, crashing here, and their equipment is being reverse engineered, piffle-peddling this week? Actually, there's been a bit going on this week, surprisingly. Not with reverse engineering alien spacecraft, of course, as there aren't any here, but with one or two other things. Oh yeah, it's just reminded me, before I kick off, I didn't actually make a note, I don't think, but Avi Loeb, I saw Avi Loeb on YouTube yesterday, and he was saying that there's enough interesting anomalies with this 3i Atlas that he thinks there's a 40% chance that it could be an alien spacecraft of some kind, an alien probe, a 40% chance, which of course means he thinks there's a 60% chance that it isn't. But as Avi Loeb says, we should be keeping an eye on it because we don't know. So. Now, something I saw that made me laugh. David Grusch has apparently lost his court case against the Sheriff Department. I didn't make a note of where, I don't think that's relevant really, for revealing he was dragged off to the nut house. Mr. Grusch is a little bit upset because he thinks that the public, knowing that he was forcibly removed from his house and taken to the nut house, might put a dent in his credibility. Really? You think? I suppose Grusch had to be right about something eventually. Poor Mr. Grusch. Now, it looks like Representative Luna has woken up to the fact that the whistleblowers are all full of shit, I think was what she said. She went to all the trouble of organising a skiff for them. This is Elizondo, Mellon and Grusch. Not one of them turned up. They all called in sick. And she finds this rather suspicious, as do I. And I suspect as does everybody with an IQ bigger than their shoe size. Because it's got, it's got red flags all over it, hasn't it? Now, I've said this in 1 or 2 videos, and I've copied Representative Luna and Representative Burlison in on a couple of these videos. So if they've watched them, and they think Mumling's got a point, well, thank you very much for the views, Representatives Luna and Burlison. I don't know that's the case, but maybe they've just sort of woken up to that. Same sort of time that I've been putting the videos out about how obvious it is that there's obviously something wrong with these whistleblowers. If they were legitimate, they would be queuing up at Arrow's door to get their stories verified, and they're not. They're running away. They're running away from Arrow. They're running away from any skiffs set up by Luna or Burlison and co. This tells me there is nothing to it. They know it's science fiction. Now, I think Luna actually said they're full of shit. They called in sick or said their dog had died or something. I mean, these are sort of pathetic school excuses, aren't they? The dog ate my homework. Oh, I couldn't come in for the exam. My dog died. She also said apparently they're ghosting her. And I saw Lou Elizondo saying, "We're not ghosting her. I'm not ghosting her." That's right, not we. He said, "I'm not ghosting her." This is Lou Elizondo. Now the interesting thing is that You know, Lou Elizondo said he lives in Wyoming and wasn't going to Washington to attend the skiff at his own expense. Now, I find that suspicious because he tells us he gave up a well-paid Pentagon job just so he could tell us all about all these visiting crashing ETs. And, you know, I would think paying his own expenses from Wyoming to Washington to give all this very detailed information about these crashing ETs and their vehicles being reverse engineered would pale into insignificance. Any expenses to attend that skiff would pale into insignificance to giving up a well-paid Pentagon job, wouldn't it? To tell us all about this stuff. Regardless, either way, he still hasn't told us all about this stuff, has he? You know, he's... and he's changed his story, didn't he? Didn't he call in sick? And now he's saying it was down to expenses. And it was a duplicated event or something like that. It coincided with something else. So instead of, you know, giving us all the information that he's left his well-paid Pentagon job for, and going to Washington, attending Luna's skiff, he's decided to go and call in sick, take a sickie, and go and present some science fiction stories at some UFO conference, where no one's going to be checking out what he's got to say, of course. I mean, really, Lou Elizondo, you know, all he ever says is, well, if you ask him any significant questions, any real questions, I can't talk about that, you know. Well, I've got NDAs, I've got my pension to worry about, you know. I really can't talk about that. That's somebody else's conversation. You know, yet he left his Pentagon job to tell us all about it. He said to Luna, arrange a skiff and I'll come along and tell you everything I know. Luna arranges a skiff, he calls in sick, runs away and presents at one of these science fiction conferences, which is what they are. So, you know, Elizondo's not a whistleblower. Whistleblowers don't worry about security oaths and NDAs. Whistleblowers blow the whistle. Do you think Edward Snowden worried about NDAs? And Elizondo will say, well, I don't want to live in Russia. But then why leave your Pentagon job to tell us all about it? Why tell us all you're a whistleblower and then say, well, I can't talk about it? It doesn't make any sense, does it? The only sense that does come from this is that there's nothing to tell. I think he'd be telling his stories straight away to Luna and Burlison in a skiff, or talking to Arrow, because there's nobody involved in this game that would not want their name to go down in history as the one person that proved with tangible evidence that we are not alone in the cosmos. If I was involved in one of these projects, I'd make damn sure it was my name that went in the history books. I wouldn't be saying, oh, I can't talk about that, you know. I'd be saying, yeah, sure, you know. Been doing that for ages. If you like, I can take you down there. I can show you where it's all happening. I've got a piece here that I put in my coat pocket when I came home from work the other day. You get it analysed, you'll find it's not terrestrial. No, that's happening, is it? So, you know, so Elizondo has gone from counter-intelligence at the Pentagon to standing behind the counter of a bar and grill saying, would you like fries with that? Elizondo has opened a bar and grill in Wyoming called Bombshells, World War II themed bar and grill. Anyone would think he would know that this ET is coming here and crashing here and their vehicles are being reverse engineered. Business is dying in the backside and he's going to have to find another form of income. I suspect the book sales have gone off a cliff. I mean, what was so imminent about his book? You know, it's called Imminent. What's imminent exactly? When I first saw this, I thought, bombshells, it's going to be a UAP, UFO, ET themed bar and grill, you know, where there's going to be crash saucers, pictures of crash saucers sticking out of the ground and all this sort of stuff, you know. A dartboard with Stephen Greer's face on it, that sort of thing, you know. But no, it's a World War II themed bar and grill. Now, I had a look at it on Google Earth. It's a bit out the back. It's not on a main road. It's just tucked away a bit off a main road. And I thought, what if I find myself in Wyoming? I might go in and get a burger. Just so he can say, would you like fries with that? To me. Now, curiously, there's already a sort of bar and grill, a World War II themed bar and grill chain in the US called Bombshells, and it's spelt the same way. Bombshells, all one word. Now, if Lou Elizondo is not a franchisee of this Bombshells bar and grill chain, he may run into some problems, possibly. I'm not sure of the legalities of that. But certainly he's going to be riding on the coattails of customers of Bombshells, you know, that have been to Bombshells restaurants around the US, have liked it, find themselves in Wyoming, they Google Bombshells, and they're going to go to his place, aren't they? So he's riding on the coattails of someone else's business success. Not like he's riding on the coattails, or was at least, of people with the success, making money out of this ET's coming here, crashing here drivel. Now, is this or is this not dodgy business practice? It's not something I care particularly about on this channel. I'm only interested in is ET coming here and crashing here. I'm not seeing any evidence that's convincing me that that's the case. I'm seeing lots of people trying to convince me it's the case, but I'm not seeing anybody presenting any evidence to convince me that's the case. So, you know, is Lou Elizondo's Bombshells Bar and Grill a little bit dodgy? You know, I mean, if I opened a fried chicken shop in town and called it Kentucky Fried Chicken, you know, come to my KFC shop, I've nothing whatsoever to do with the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise, would Kentucky Fried Chicken come after me for dodgy business practices? I suspect they probably would. I mean, is this indicative of Lou Elizondo having poor integrity generally, you know, not just with regard to telling science fiction stories, presenting pictures of reflections of lampshades as motherships and crop irrigation circles as huge flying saucers, you know, does that spread across his whole life? You know, has he got no integrity with business and anything else either? So yeah, it looks dodgy to me. I suppose we'll find out whether or not it's dodgy before too long. Now, back in November 2004, hang on, I'm just sticking that between the slats and the wooden table to stop it blowing away. There you go. Find out whether there's not a crossbar mumbling. Be a good idea, wouldn't it? So back in November 2024, the last UAP hearing, or the one before that, was it? Luna asked Elizondo if he thought some UAP were being piloted by non-human biologics. You know, if he thought, you know, she shouldn't be asking for Elizondo's opinion. I mean, he's under oath. He can say any old rubbish. You know, it doesn't have to be true. If he gives the impression he believes it, in his opinion, I think he might have even said that, and he'll say, yes, that's the case. You know, that's the wrong question. The question should be, do you have any tangible evidence to support any of the stories you're telling us about ET coming here and crashing here and their equipment being reverse engineered? Do you have any tangible evidence of that? Not what is your opinion, Mr. Elizondo. Anybody can have an opinion. They're there to get to the bottom of this and find out if it's real or not. Getting opinions from science fiction piffle peddlers is not the way to do it. So, wrong question. Now, part of Lou Elizondo's response so Elizondo answered, in some cases they seem to be intelligently controlled because they seem to anticipate our manoeuvres. Wrong question. Don't ask his opinion. But what he's probably talking about here, he said, they seem to be intelligently controlled because they seem to anticipate our manoeuvres. Now, I think what he's referring to here is David Fravor saying that, you know, after the Tic Tac event, which if you do a bit of trigonometry with the head-up display numbers from the F-18, proves beyond any doubt that the Tic Tac was a slow-moving object at 13,800 feet. It wasn't a fast-moving object close to the surface. Remember, Dietrich perfectly described a submerging submarine, long cylinder just below the surface of the ocean, roiling water. Whatever this was, it was launched from a submarine. Anyway, I'm going off a bit of a tangent here. So he's probably talking about this encounter with Fravor and the Tic Tac, because Fravor said, oh yeah, well the Princeton told us that it disappeared and reappeared at our cap point. Now the cap point is a rendezvous point where all the fighter planes they form back up to go back and land at the carrier. That's the cap point. Once the exercise is over, they all meet up at this cap point, and they're saying, oh, there's a blip at the cap point, it's reappeared at the cap point. Now the cap point would have been programmed into the computerized radar system on the Princeton. This is the one that had the big software upgrade just before they went on the exercise. The one that was producing all these other ridiculous glitches that they talk about as though they were real things. You know, things going from 80,000 feet down to sea level in the blink of an eye. You know, it's obviously a system glitch. Nothing can do that. There would be no point in aliens engineering a spacecraft or a flying vehicle that would do that. You don't need to do that. It's a system glitch. The cap point, you know, something appearing at the cap point is another system glitch, because that position would have been programmed into the same system that had the software upgrade that the other glitches appeared on. So they're not anticipating anything. They're not there. That's probably Kevin Day as well. Kevin Day has since said, you know, he thinks he knows what really happened, but he's going to keep it to himself because he doesn't want to destroy the credibility of the story. What does that tell you? I actually did a video some time ago where I actually showed Kevin Day saying that in his own words. Kevin Day knows it was a system glitch. And they're just milking it, you know, for investment money, for investigating UAPs. You know, get a few quid in for UAPX, which is probably folded up because they haven't found anything. There's nothing to find. Certainly with regard ET. You know, as I've said before, I live up in the air, I see bright lights in the sky, I don't know what they are. No tangible connection between those and extraterrestrials. So, and none of the planes, of course, saw anything at the cap point when they returned. You know, so this radar system painted a target at the cap point. It's a system glitch, software glitch. When the planes got to the cap point, it wasn't there. No one's ever said whether when they got to the cap point they couldn't see anything, but the radar was still showing it at the cap point. That would be a good question, wouldn't it? That would be a good question for Kevin Day. I suspect that may very well have been the case. I can still see it here. You can't see anything at all. No, it must be a system glitch. Better keep that quiet. We can't make any money out of a system glitch, can we? Now, I thought Eric Burlison, now after Luna said they're all bullshitters, you know, they were called in sick, you know, made pathetic excuses, you know, their dogs died, they couldn't attend, they're all bullshitters, and they ghosted her. Eric Burlison, now this could have been a bit of a get out of jail free card for Elizondo and Grusch and co. And I think Eric Burlison realised that and thought, oh, wait a minute, we can't have them, you know, going on telling all these stories and then saying, we don't want to listen to them. So Eric Burlison, and this is really quite clever, I think, has said if they can't all make it to a skiff at the same time, he will arrange a skiff for them individually. Now this is painting them into a corner, isn't it? Well done, Mr. Burlison. So, you know, it's funny, isn't it, that if you arrange a hearing, they can all get there at the same time, no problem at all. You know, all of them can get there, no problem at all, at the same time. Arrange a skiff to give all this information that they've been bottling up and they've been wanting to tell the world forever. Oh, they can't come, you know, they're not feeling very well. Got another appointment, you know, with the science fiction fair. Dogs died, you know. Oh, I can't afford the fare to Washington, even though I gave up a well-paid Pentagon job to tell you all about it. I can't afford a plane fare and a hotel overnight hotel fee, accommodation fee. I can't afford that, you know. You know, I gave up this well-paid Pentagon job to tell you all about it. It doesn't make it's ludicrous, isn't it? It would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich. But anyway, now Mr. Burlison has said, okay, well, all right, you can't get there all in one go. Don't worry about it. We'll arrange a skiff for you to come in individually and tell us all you know. Well done, Mr. Burlison. That's painted them into a corner. What are they going to do now? And let's hope that I think it was Burlison and Luna were talking about subpoenas, weren't they, to get to the bottom of all this? If they say they can't come in at all, then get them subpoenaed. You know who to subpoena. I can't remember the expression that Luna used, but you could tell who she was talking about immediately. So, you know, if Burlison and Luna and co arrange skiffs, get Arrow along and arrange with these people on an individual basis to come in and talk to them, to tell them all they know, Elizondo won't say, well, I can't talk about that when he gets in there, and he knows that. So will Puthoff, so will Davis, so will Carl Nell. There'd be another good one to subpoena, get him in there. You know, if they can't, if then they're all different days, times and days, you know, and they still don't attend for whatever reason, I think Burlison and Luna and co are going to know that there's nothing at the bottom of this but a steaming pile of science fiction bullshit. You know, it's so if they on an individual basis can't turn up, then get them subpoenaed and get them in there and see what they've got to say for themselves. I mean, I think as it is at the moment, I'd be very surprised if Burlison and Luna are seriously thinking about having this other hearing in September. I think they'll be thinking it will be a complete and utter waste of time and money. It's all just going to be stories, you know, just like David Grusch with Arrow, you know. Wouldn't go and see Arrow. Arrow said, we'll come and see you. They tried and tried and tried to get David Grusch to go in and tell Arrow all he knows, and he wouldn't go in there. They said, we'll come to you. He made an appointment to meet them somewhere and didn't turn up. So exactly the same thing, isn't it, with Grusch? So, you know, maybe he had an appointment with a rubber room, who knows? But he wouldn't go and tell Arrow all he has, all this information he has, you know. So I think Burlison and Luna and Co will know there's nothing to it if these people do not turn up for these individual skiffs that they're going to arrange. I think they'll put a line through it and move on. I strongly suspect that, well, Luna said she thinks it's all bullshit anyway. I think Burlison is on the same page. If there was anything to this, they would be knocking down the door of Luna and Burlison's skiff to give all the information that they have, that they can't give in an open hearing. You know, well, I'd love to tell you we'd have to arrange a skiff. You know, arrange a skiff, and if it was anything to it, they would be knocking down the door of that skiff to get in there and tell Luna and Burlison and Co and Arrow all about it. Instead, they run away and hide under the table, make up stupid schoolboy excuses as to why they can't attend. Okay, so good on Luna and good on Burlison for what they're doing. Stirring the pot. It looks like they're making a real effort to get to the bottom of this. It is so far past put up or shut up time that it's just ludicrous. You know, how long would this string along for if they don't force this and get to the bottom of it? And that looks like that's what they're going to do. Jake Barber, apparently Skywatcher. A member of Skywatcher was saying, well, you know, we were told Skywatcher's dead. You know, it's not getting any money coming in. Well, after seeing their flocks of birds pictures and hearing the ridiculous nonsense about their electromechanical dog whistle, I'm not surprised. But he was saying, I can't tell you any more about that because we've all had to sign NDAs. Now, were these NDAs issued by Skywatcher, by Jake Barber himself? Did Jake Barber say, look, you know, look guys, this is obviously all bullshit, you know, we've got videos of flocks of birds, you know, and the electromechanical dog whistle's just a theatrical prop, you know, it's just there to fool the gullible, you know, Gary Nolan's over there, he's convinced. But you cannot tell anybody that has an IQ bigger than their shoe size. I'm going to have to get you all to sign these NDAs. Spread them all out on the table. NDAs everywhere. I want you to sign these NDAs. Because if you don't, you're not going to get any money out of this pot. We've got this big pot of investor money here. And we're going to divvy it all up as we wind it up. And you will not be getting a dollar of it unless you sign these NDAs. And you don't tell anybody. It's a steaming pile of bullshit designed to get investment money. And nothing more. And they had this 5 or 6 steps, was it? You know, and I made a video some time ago when I first saw that, and I said, well, they're not going to get past step 3 or 4, whatever it was, which was provide tangible evidence of extraterrestrials visiting. You know, they're going to stumble on that. And of course, that's where they've stumbled, because there are no extraterrestrials visiting. They cannot summon ET spacecraft. It's all theatre, you know. Psionically summoning, little dot in the distance, you know. Another member of his crew with a drone, downwind so he can't hear it, you know. Flares dropped out of planes, going from the cloud base down to the ground slowly, you know. It's all theatre. There is nothing real to any of this. So, yeah, I think they all had to sign NDAs because they were told that they wouldn't get any of the money out of this investment pot. If they told the world what was really happening, or the investors found out what was really happening, there'd be no more money going into the pot. So they couldn't be taking any more money out. It used to be called another people's money scam, didn't it, that sort of thing? Where companies would get lots of government grants and all that. They set up a nice glossy brochure with the directors and the engineering people, you know. They do a technical feasibility study, buy a bit of land, you know. And they'll do the absolute bare minimum they can to get away with legally attempting to complete the project, get the project off the ground and make it work, when they know it's never going to get past that point. But they've already had, you know, the millions of dollars of government grants, or investment money. That's all gone to these big executive salaries. And then, just like Kaiser Soze, it all disappears. As soon as it looks like the money's drying up, Mandrake the magician, they're gone. Okay, now I saw someone I'd never heard of before. Apparently she was an ex-BBC journalist of some kind. Miss Moneypenny. Never heard of her. And she said that if Ross Coulthart didn't contact her within 3 hours, she would reveal the location of the crashed ET craft that was so large they had to put a building over it. And I fell about laughing when I saw this. I thought there is no crashed alien spacecraft so big they had to put a building over it. You muppet. She's not going to hear from Coulthart, and of course she didn't. Now she says that she doesn't say this thing's outside of the US. She said, oh, she's found evidence that it's at that they dug a big hole off at Air Force Base in America. She thinks it's in this big hole. And then they just moved the Air Force Base back over the top. Complete and utter rubbish. Put a line through Miss Moneypenny. Yeah. It's complete and utter rubbish. I don't know how long she's been in the piffle peddling game, whether she's a regular or, as I say, I've never seen her before. I've never heard of her. And what else was it I saw? I missed a page. You know, whenever you see crashes of aircraft, big aircraft, you know, Air Pakistan Airbus flies into a mountain, you know, German Wings flies into a mountain, Air India flies into a hospital canteen. There's debris everywhere. You know, you could take the entire aircraft home in carrier bags. They're in that, they're smashed to pieces. Yet, yet this remained intact long enough. It remained intact, so they had to put a building over it. You know, they couldn't just sweep up all the bits and then take them away to Los Alamos or somewhere like that in trucks. No, couldn't do that. It landed perfectly intact, come screaming in across the solar system, all the way to the planet, stopped about 2 metres above the ground and went boom. And they went, oh, better put a building over this quick. It's just ludicrous, isn't it? You know, so big aircraft crashes. You know, the bits that you can't even tell what sort of aircraft it was. You can't tell if it was a Boeing or whether it was an Airbus. Although these days, pretty much you can take it for granted. It's got to be both. Never used to be that way. So the whole story makes no sense whatsoever. Even if even if you consider that if this thing did land and it was in one piece, which it would not be, it would be in thousands of little pieces. An alien spacecraft came here and crashed. It's not going to do that anyway. You'd be able to pick the bits up and put it on a truck. You know, it's not going to be so big you've got to put a building over it. And as I've said before, how many people would be involved in putting a building over an alien spacecraft? And what happened to the crew? It'd be hundreds of people, hundreds of brickies and plumbers and electricians. You know, someone's going to have to design the building. There's earth moving. It'd be a huge operation, and any one of those people would want to go down in the history books as the one person that provided tangible evidence that we're not alone in the cosmos. You know, Coulthart doesn't reveal where it is because he knows there's nothing there. He knows we'll go and look. And we're going to find no alien spacecraft. He knows that. I know exactly where it is, but I'm not telling you. So why mention it? Ross, why mention it? Mr. Coulthart. He knows it's rubbish. I can't reveal my sources, says Mr. Coulthart, and that's because if he did, we would fall about laughing. His sources are going to be Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, David Grusch, The same old usual suspects. So there's no crashed alien spacecraft with a building over it outside of the US or under Offutt Air Force Base. It's drivel. Yeah. Any one of those tradespeople involved in building the building, they would want their names to go in the history books. They would want to be interviewed all over the world. You know, there'd be a lot of money in it. If you could prove with tangible evidence that we are not alone in the cosmos, your name will go down in history forever. You'll never have to work a day in your life, you know, which is what all these piffle-peddlers are hoping for, obviously. So the whole story is complete and utter rubbish. You know, Coulthart would reveal it and grab his Nobel Prize if he thought this was real. Because if it was real, if Coulthart said this is where it is, and we go there and that's where it is, he doesn't need his contacts, does he? He doesn't need to try and convince everybody that ET is coming here and crashing here and their equipment is being reverse engineered, because it will be proven with tangible evidence. That's the end of the story, isn't it? So, put a line through Coulthart. See, Bryce Zabel has. Bryce Zabel has dumped Coulthart as his co-host on Need to Know. What science fiction bullshit do you need to know this week? I can hardly wait, Mr. Zabel. Now he's teamed up with Richard Dolan, professional, legacy piffle-peddler. You know, I mean, I saw Dolan saying, oh, well, there's good evidence for at least 17 ET crashed vehicle retrievals, you know. And I thought, well, where is it, Mr. Dolan? And then he just keeps talking, you know. He doesn't say, here it is. You know, so Dolan, professional piffle-peddler, he's been making money out of this for years. He's actually said in these words that he's not interested in getting a real job. So he's not giving up this ET bullshit anytime soon. It's his living. You know, and his wife's in on the act as well with the remote viewing, you know. Yeah. Remote view my place. Describe it in detail. Leave your description in the comments below and I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. I won't lie about it. If you're right, I'll say you're right. No such thing as remote viewing. Telekinesis. It's all drivel. So, yeah, Bryce Zabel has managed to install another ET is coming here and crashing here fanboy. So don't expect any actual facts or evidence from, what's it called? Need to Know. And yeah, just a couple of last little bits here. I mean, when the last hearing, Luna was talking to Eric Davis, and he was saying, oh, you know, we're being visited by the Greys, the Nordics, the insectoids. It's going to be the big praying mantis things, you know. I live in the sort of place that might see that sort of thing. Everything is huge. I saw this stick insect on YouTube, which is, I think it was over in Queensland. It was about this big. You know? I found this stick insect in Queensland. And of course the reptilians, we can't forget those, can we? You know, get me a crocodile sandwich and make it snappy. Now, of course, you know, Luna was sitting there going like that. I think she's woken up since, you know, since that last hearing. I think she's woken up to the fact that it's all bullshit. But, of course, Eric Davis didn't produce a scrap of tangible evidence to support any of this was true. Nobody's produced a selfie, you know. Any of these claimants have not one of them has presented a selfie with a grey or a Nordic or an insectoid or a reptilian. The closest we came was Billy Meyer, who produced those pictures that he said was Semjas from the Pleiades, and it turned out to be a woman from a Swedish rock band. It's all rubbish, theatrical bullshit, all of it. Eric Davis says, you know, he's never met any of these aliens. He's just choosing to believe that the Greys, the Nordics, the Insectoids and the Reptilians are coming here because he's been told they're coming here by others. Probably Hal Puthoff. And I saw another woman being interviewed, Tulsi Gabbard, who is apparently the Director of National Intelligence in the US. And she said she's looking at it and she's seen some interesting stuff. And she's not going to say she's seen aliens or anything like that. But it looks like she's taking an interest in it as well. And she's going to be looking at it as well. Well, the more the merrier, I say. Especially if you can get these... Someone like this, you know, the Director of National Intelligence in the US. So presumably she's, would she be above the CIA and the NSA and all these sort of people? Director of National Intelligence? Or is National Intelligence yet another intelligence agency in the US? I don't know. But I mean, she certainly sounds fairly high up, you know, so maybe she's got interested in it and she wants to know if it's true. So I'll be keeping an eye out to see what Tulsi Gabbard has to say about it. I suspect she's going to find exactly what Luna and Burlison and co have found. Remember Tim Burchett, some time ago, you know, he said we thought these people had first-hand experience with this stuff, but it turns out they're all frauds. That was pretty much his actual words verbatim. That was Tim Burchett. They're all frauds. Luna's saying they're all full of shit. They're making feeble excuses as to why they can't attend a skiff. Burlison, unfortunately, is painting them all into a corner, saying, come along individually, we'll arrange a personal skiff for you. Where can they go from there? Wait and see. Alright, well, I think that will do. It's another week roundup of, very weak, probably, of what's been going on in the wonderful world of ETs coming here, crashing here, and their vehicles are being reversed engineered, piffle peddling. So if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, as usual, many thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.